about 2 years ago when we were working together on piano, on some productions and songwriting. Shortly after right before the pandemic hit, there was a track you came out with, and which led you to opening for Fatboy Slim. That was
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah. So could you talk a little bit about that track and opening for Fatboy Slim?
Okay, I'm just trying to get my timeline right. I
Yeah.
think it was Elevate that I
Mhm.
put out in November.
Yep.
But just really, the thing that I've learned is you just don't know what songs are going to connect and in what way. That was more of like a club drop release. That we didn't do the full pitching plan around it, but for some reason at the time, I guess everyone was like isolating and just wanted to party. That track really connected, and it got into the ARIA charts. It got into like the top 10, and there was a lot of wins on that track that started to build a lot of momentum. And I think when I got booked for the Fatboy Slim show, I was like the right tier for that slot. So yeah, when that booking came through, it was actually quite last minute. I think I got told like a couple of weeks before, and yeah, I was super excited because he's a pioneer. And yeah, it was amazing. I met my family, my brother and his wife were like, "We'll come to that show," and they're quite a bit older than me, so I love when I can drag them out to something and have a bit of a bonding with them. So yeah, they obviously know who Fatboy Slim is, so they were all
Yeah.
about it. But we couldn't
Oh
meet
man.
Fatboy Slim. He
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because he's like
That's
in
right.
such a higher tier. He had his like own green room backstage
Yeah.
section, and whenever I saw him, but we weren't like, he was surrounded by security and we weren't allowed to go up to him. And I've
Sure.
honestly never actually, the only time I've ever witnessed something to that degree of protection, I guess, was at Origin a few years ago when ASAP Ferg and all the big rappers and stuff were there. They've got all that, so
Yeah.
that was a bit disappointing because I would have loved to like meet him, but I can
Oh yeah.
imagine that he gets constantly harassed at everything that he does, so he probably
Mhm.
needs to keep his mind in focus.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of a shame you didn't get to meet him, because if I was there, I would have, you know, everyone would be like,
100%.
oh no, well, Fatboy Slim, right? Like
Yeah,
holy shit, right? So
yeah,
this was,
definitely.
and what was that gig like to you, for you personally? Like the turnout
um
and the energy and the just everything in
so
general.
I was on earlier in the day, and when I
Yeah,
started there was no one dancing, and
right.
by the time I'd finished, I had a bit of a dance floor there. I decided to play a mix between, because obviously the demographic for that was going to be an older crowd,
Hmm.
so I found a lot of mixes that had sounds and songs from like the 80s, 90s and early noughties, but mixed into my style.
Yeah.
And I felt it really really worked because I
Mhm.
had a bunch of older demographic people coming down to be like, yeah, like, because they knew they had familiarity, but then
Yeah.
also super dancey and fun at the same time. And I think I picked up a bit of a fan base from that, because I had a couple of messages being like, your set was our favorite for the day. I was like, what, over Fatboy Slim?
Hell yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was really fun.
Wow. And that's another lesson to be learned there, is how you adapt. What people can
Yeah,
take from this is, oh, okay, like Fatboy Slim's audience is going to be a little bit older, and so you cater to them by getting some of these older
yeah,
tracks into your music. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
yeah.
All right, so just moving on to gigging. I believe a lot of people can take a lot away from this. Is what were some concrete steps you've taken to build your audience, branding, and recognition?
Okay, I think there's two parts to this. So part one was back in 2016
Hmm.
or 2015, actually. I kind of fluked all of this stuff. I was very young into the industry, very naive. So I just kind of always were making steps forward if I could. I think it was a combination of and having a good network of people. And also I was releasing music, and what we're talking about before is you just don't know what opportunities are going to arise. So I got dubbed as an artist to watch in 2016 by In the Mix, and at the time blogs were super popular, like that they were like the main source of finding new music. So a combination of that and someone I knew was throwing shows over East meant that I had my first international show, and I was getting like international recognition. Through that, I actually got a booking agent, and he got me my first national tour. But after that, I had a few, I guess, like life things come up that I had to focus on. So music wasn't my main focus. And I didn't really know how to continuously sustain what I was doing, because like I had said, like everything was kind of fluked. I just did whatever and it kind of just happened and opportunities came up.
Yeah.
So after that, when opportunities weren't coming up for a while, I realized that I had to look at it from a strategic point of view. And basically how we talk about it is playing the industry game.
Yes.
And so that's when more that's when more concrete steps were established. So I guess the way you can look at this whole thing, and this really helped me, was music's the core. The music has to be good. Your production has to be good, like, or your band or whatever style of music. That's the core. Once you have that, you have to figure out all the other elements. So it's from your marketing, your branding, your voice. What is your visual aspect? Who is your personality online? And then we go to online, which is like your social media presence. What platforms are you on, and how are you utilizing those platforms? And then after that, it's, are you releasing your music? How are you releasing your music? Do you have a publicist? Do you have a team? If you don't have to have a team, but then if you don't, you've got to do all the work, like pitching your music. You can't just put a song on SoundCloud and Spotify and expect everyone to listen to it. Like, are you pitching them to different radios and different online blogs and maybe different artists? And then, yeah, so there's that. And then if you do build your team, like who's your manager, who's your network of people? Do you have are you putting stuff on Triple J Unearthed? Like, are they starting to recognize your stuff? Because then you might get that leg into Triple J. Are you playing shows? Because that's like content for the shows. Like, so then you got to think about, do I need to play shows? And they're not all like one thing to think about. It's like the music's the core and that's the circle around it. So if you can get all those things as far as you can, then like they lead to opportunities. And I think through really establishing what my brand was and who I was and what my music style was and all that, and starting to release music, I got to the point where I wasn't going to release music for the sake of releasing it. It had to be good, but I also couldn't have a gap long enough where I lost momentum. So it was and which is something that I actually did, because my last track, that had been a year between releases. So, but now we've got a really big plan happening in the next year. So I'm more prepared now than I was a year ago, let's say. Right. But releasing music and then having something to talk about all the time, like, celebrating your wins on social media, because that's public perception. And then playing shows, because that's the content of me actually playing it out. And so all these things work hand in hand. And there's so many different strategies, and it all depends on how you want to go about it, what your music is, where you are located. You got to, if I was going to sit down with an artist and try and establish a plan, it would have to do it. It'd be relative to, their, like I said, their style and where they're located, and what kind of way they want to do it. Because if you're not authentic to yourself, it's not going to be an easy strategy. You got to do something that's going to be in line with your values and who you are as an artist, so that you can actually have longevity. There we go.
Wow. Beautifully said. Take it from Tina Says, guys. That's my takeaway from that is to be intentional. Being intentional with your releases. It's not releasing music for music's sake. Simply how you described it is that, music is a small part of the whole thing. You have your support team, you have the social media, you have all these things that go in play, and playing the show is a small part of it. Releasing music is just a small part of it. There's, everything needs to be working together for it to work.
Yeah. And when you start off as an artist, because I work with a lot of artists, and I know from my experience is that you just think you're gonna have a song and blow up. Like, you just think you're gonna release a song and someone's gonna hear it, and then you might get signed. And I was in that very naive state. That's not how it works, because there is so much noise in the industry. You've got to really, really, really shine your project and be heard above that noise. So everything as a package. And if you don't have a package, it's unlikely people are going to work with you. It's unlikely Triple J will see longevity in your project.
The market is saturated, so saturated with
always.
Yeah, and
it's a dream. Everyone thinks it's a dream job, which it can be to a degree, but it's also very, very stressful.
Yes, it's high stakes, definitely high stakes as well. It is high risk, and we're not in the 70s or 80s anymore, where you kind of like you get a song out there and you're more likely to get signed. It's much harder now. Or should we say, let's say it's not harder now. We just had to adapt to, being in the 2020s.
The current market. Yeah.
The current market, yeah. And the thing with
in the 10 years of being in the industry, that market is constantly changing. We went from being in days of uploading stuff to SoundCloud and having blogs as your platform to now it's more Spotify, and we're dictated by Triple J and Triple J Unearthed, and having these streaming platform plays and stuff like that, plus TikTok. Like if you're big on TikTok, you can be famous from TikTok.
Pretty much, yeah. Do you have a TikTok? Or
I have a TikTok. I'm semi-active. I'm trying to find what my place as an artist is on it. I'm not going to be dancing and stuff. I'm trying to find something that's connected to me, my values and stuff, but it's a lot of work as well. And when I'm touring and writing music and teaching and all this other stuff, it can become on the back burner. So I try to focus on it, but there's only so much one person can do.
It's also a very particular platform, isn't it? Like you can't just put on, you've got to be really particular with your content, even more so than on Facebook and Instagram. TikTok is for a certain audience, and it's all about finding that,
catch their attention.
Yeah, finding that niche in the.
You got 2 seconds.
Sorry, what's that?
2 seconds to catch people's attention.
2 seconds, yeah, and it used to be 6 seconds. Now it's 2 seconds. it's
I don't know if that's actually a stat. I just made that up.
I just made it up too. So, but I agree with that. And hey, you mentioned teaching. I feel this segues perfectly into you're teaching at a school right now, right? You teach production, and talk a bit about that.
So Lab Six Perth. Lab Six is only in Perth. It's a production and DJ school.
Yes.
It's a very awesome. It's an awesome school because it's kind of more of a 10-week crash course rather than like it being a 2-year committed, HEC kind of course. It's more so if people just want to get a fundamental understanding of how to produce and all the elements that are needed to produce, it's all there in 10 weeks. So I got asked to work there about 1.5 years ago, which was perfect timing because I was at a point where music was on and off hold, and I was working in hospitality and I was getting a bit over it, and I felt like I had more to give and more to offer. So when I started teaching, and teaching is a ball game in itself, and you would know, to be able to actually understand and articulate what you do it takes a while. But I picked up on it really fast, to be honest. I guess I didn't know how much I knew my stuff until I had to teach it. And I was a bit nervous, especially with some subjects. And as soon as I explained it once or twice, I was like, I know my stuff really well. I gotta give myself more credit here.
Yeah, and, exactly.
And so for the last year, I've been teaching for about probably 16 hours a week, which has been enough to sustain my income, live and work on music, which has been amazing. And this kind of goes back to opportunity. You just don't know what is around the corner. And one thing I've learned is just always take one step forward. If you don't even know what's around the corner, just one step forward, because your hard work will meet opportunity. And that's what I consider luck. It's not luck, really. It's more, people say you're lucky. It's like, no, I worked hard and I had an opportunity.
Yeah. And you didn't let fear get in the way. You just took that step, and it's just one step forward. There
was definitely fear hovering around, but you've got to conquer your fear.
Yeah. It's to me, fear, I there's an acronym for this. It's false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know
So
how I haven't heard that.
yeah, it's just your mind playing tricks. It's going like it's giving you the worst case scenario. It's just, but at the end of the day, it's just an illusion. You just kind of walk through
Yeah,
it. Oh, okay, there's nothing. And it's kind of sad how just that very idea just
I
stops
know.
people from, yeah, they might have almost made it. They've worked so hard on it, like 95, 99%, and then they just stop because of that
Yeah,
final step. And that's you know, sad to see, but then it's at the end of the day, one step at a time, really. It's not like you an overnight success takes years.
of
It's not,
course. And
yeah, yeah.
if you're
Go ahead.
faced with fear, you need to then have like time to self-reflect and try and figure out why you've got that fear
Yeah.
and what you really want. Maybe this opportunity, maybe you have fear because this opportunity is something that you don't want. Maybe that's where the fears come from. Maybe the fear is coming because you've got an anxiety to one of the parts, or
Mhm.
it's scary to change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
But if you want it, then you've just got to, take that time to self-reflect and, like we said before, like baby step into it. So
Yeah.
when I started teaching, I got thrown straight into a group class and I didn't respond well. Like all of a sudden I had to teach, learn the curriculum and be in front of 6 people on a screen, and I hadn't done any of that. And I fumbled, and I fumbled hard, and I'm not scared to admit that I failed. Like I just couldn't get my words out and I was too nervous and I didn't understand the curriculum enough. And the guy that owns the company, Jeremy, recognized that he had thrown me into the deep end. And he took over the class. And then afterwards, he's like, pretty much apologized for not training me properly, and that he shouldn't have done that to me. And little did he know that I didn't sleep for like 3 nights because I was so anxious about it. And then I did have a point where I was like, maybe I'm not a good teacher. Maybe I'm just not equipped to be a teacher.
Mhm.
And then I quickly turned that around and said, I'm capable of doing anything that I put my mind to.
Yeah.
So then afterwards, I asked if we could I start off doing one-on-ones. And once I've done a couple of one-on-ones, I should be all right to then, I'll be a little bit more comfortable with the curriculum and how to teach and how to articulate my words. And then I started doing group classes, and now I'm up to my 3rd group and I love it, and it's so easy and I don't get nervous. And
Yeah.
I'm getting better and better as a teacher, keeping everyone engaged. And I have a great group this term,
Yeah.
and they're just an amazing bunch of kids. Well, not kids, they're actually adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's crazy. I don't get nervous. I walk in and get excited. It gives me a
Mhm.
buzz now. So if that's an
Awesome.
example of fighting fear,
Yeah,
that's a huge one.
that's right. And because in a way, there are definite parallels. You have between teaching and performing, and you've tapped into it. I feel like performer, you're in a position of power and you're leading the audience. And a teacher, you are in a position of power and you're leading you are putting on an act when you're teaching. It's different. It's a little, you're in this different zone,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
you flow, and you kind of like, okay, yeah, you get it. Yeah, awesome. All right, yeah, let's do this, and let's
Yeah.
let's get it right. And just to have that rapport, I think it's definitely the rapport with the students as well. And then they know, obviously know who you are, and they want to get somewhere, and they're very they're engaged and motivated. Would you say that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all of them. Some
Yeah.
kind of, I'd say that some
Yeah.
come in thinking that it's going to be easy, and that they may be in it for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
But then there are a bunch that just love music, want to get taught, they're excited, they're motivated, they're doing all the homework and stuff. So they're the ones that are making full tracks by week 10.
Good stuff. And is this specifically house music that you're teaching them?
No, all genres.
All
So
genres. Yeah.
what the course offers basically is like all the fundamental tools, but options of the tools, so that you can kind of walk out and be able to go down any avenue you want to. And what I liked about the course is that it doesn't confine you to being in one way. Like we say there's no rules, like there's never any rules. There's maybe better ways of doing things, or there's some things you should avoid, but most of the time it's like you could try this and maybe it'll lead you to this. But I'm always reverting back to like, if you're ever in a time of being stuck with technical issues, just use your ears, like always, even now, like especially with mixing and mastering.
That's
like
it.
you look at the screen and you look at the waveforms and you're looking and you're using your eyes, but really step back and use your ears.
Mhm.
And you've got to teach yourself that sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. It's you know, that's a very good lesson. That's a lesson that I that's something that I say as well. Is it's not about dials on the screen. It's not about how the waveform looks.
Yeah.
And when I started out doing that, that's how that's how I was working. I was going like, oh, okay, yeah, I have a boost over here. Hey, let's do a cut here, so it looks good. It's not a it's not a beauty contest, right?
Yeah.
It's no.
Yeah.
It's gotta yeah, it's ear training at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you can perceive music, because we perceive music with our ears, that's
Yeah.
where it comes through. And it's not about it's at the end of the day listening skills across the
Yeah.
board. Yeah, it could.
And slowly over time, you open your ears to certain things. Like I couldn't cut out harsh frequencies before because I didn't know what I was hearing for.
Yeah.
And then after being told what to listen out for and practicing, now I can hear those harsh tones without even like trying to hear them out.
Yeah.
So it's just opening your ears to that. And I think when you initially start production, it's like basically as simple as being able to break a song into parts. Can you hear the kick? Can you hear the clap? Can you hear the hi-hats? Can you hear what
Yeah.
the bass is? Can you hear the melodies? Can you hear the vocals? If you can start separating that part, then that's a huge first step of you opening your ears to sound.
Yes. Can you hear each element of the mix with everything playing?
Yeah.
Can you focus your
It's
ears
really
on?
difficult.
Yeah.
Students really struggle, and it's crazy because I've been producing for such a long time that you forget where you started.
Yeah.
You forget how hard it was just to do the things that are so simple now.
It's like you got to go back now and just break it down and be like, oh yes, this was how I did it, and putting it together in a way that's understandable and just very clear to the students. And so yeah, definitely listening, the critical listening skills, especially right now, so many bedroom artists want to get their music out there, but they lack the mixing and mastering skills. And it's not mixing and mastering skills, it's listening skills and using this listening to get you. The tool is a tool, but using your ears and the tools to get you to where you want. That's
exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So let us move on to the pandemic, to COVID, and especially artists have been affected all across the world, obviously. And when this happened, what were some pivots you had to make during the pandemic? And what were some wins? But let's share your pivots first.
Yeah, I guess my whole trajectory was completely altered and changed and not there anymore, basically. But I had my first biggest national tour and I was going on tour with Fisher. I was going to Bali. I had a lot planned from March until July.
Yeah.
So, I was playing my first show of the tour in Margaret River and I was getting really excited for everything that was about to come. I worked really hard and finally I was taking leaps into the right direction and I was just super excited. Then we got declared that pandemic and everything got rescheduled or cancelled. And I guess I was, for an instant, I was gutted. But then I realized that the issues were bigger at hand than a tour and this was happening worldwide. And I guess the initial part was to change my headspace from this was what I was doing, this is what I was focusing on for so long, and going, okay, well, now that's not happening. What do I do with my time now? So it was more of like, I like to take opportunity and change. So I was trying not to think too much about what I had lost, and because it was always going to happen, it was always going to come, but more, what could I do? What am I doing now? And so in that time, the things that I focused on was, production, getting my skills together, understanding the industry more, figuring out what my vision actually was. I wasn't really clear on my vision and my brand and stuff. Also just taking a step back and like having gratitude for things that when you're busy, you might not have time to even think about. So that was probably like quite pivotal for me. And really like there were the time I did get really upset probably was when we went into the lockdown, not the beginning of this year, the one that was more in the middle. And I was like, okay, is this going to keep happening? Because this has been a year and a half of me constantly rescheduling shows, my interstate shows especially.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just at a point where I was like, okay, is this just the normal forever? Like, and I found because the constant change in my plans, I found that my energy source in myself had just lowered a bit, because every time something changed, I was like, yep, okay, let's just ride with the wave, like this is just what's happening. And then when it happened again and again and again and again, I was just kind of like, oh, I'm just a bit deflated, to be honest. And but then I just recognized that maybe I needed to just take a mental break from it and do things that make me happy.
Totally relatable. You go, I think a lot of people went inwards when this pandemic hit, and then
Definitely.
it's
That's
it's
perfect that you said that,
yeah,
because
it's
I literally said to my partner, I was like, I feel like I was always outwards,
yeah,
very like my demeanor was very bubbly. And then all of a sudden I was inwards. I was overthinking and I was planning and strategizing, but then trying to adapt. And so all of a sudden I felt like, I was more in my head.
it is. Yeah. A lot, almost pretty much everything is in pretty much here. Everything needs to be here. Everything needs to be right before it all comes out. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, but it's got to be here first. Like, if you're not
Yeah.
aligned, it doesn't come out properly. And what I got from this pandemic is that the people are saying, oh, it's changed the world, right? People are saying that, oh, the world's not the same. But then what some people don't realize is that the world's always changing. Like every day is every day is just different, right? It's a different thing. You don't feel the same way every day. Different things happen every day. And COVID just really, expanded that fact. Like, yes, really put that, that fact to light. So when you said,
well, instead of it being a gradual change, it was a significant change. So it was more talked about, it was more thought about.
Yeah. And do you feel that definitely, going inwards, and then you've had to work on yourself a bit more, right? Like a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a very weird, because I've had a lot of self-reflection time of recent, and I had a lot of personal growth from probably 25-ish, because a lot of stuff happened in that year. But that was different to this. This was very like, the personal growth was more in line with like more disciplinary kind of like I guess like trying not to let that voice in my head take over and tell me that I'm a joke and I'm doing the wrong thing. Like stepping to the studio every day and just showing up, who I am as a person and who I want to be towards other people. Like it was, I'd already kind of gone through these motions, but this was really amplified. So I feel like in the last, probably more so this year, because I could say this year's been the biggest grind that I've ever done.
Okay. Yep.
Kind of in terms of like solidifying my project, what my vision is, my brands, my body control started. So getting that off the ground. Also my relationships with the people around me. Like especially my partner, like who do I want to be to him? I don't want to be reactive because I'm in a stressful situation. So I took a lot of time to start journaling and doing things like I saw a psychologist, because I felt like I needed some brain training, because I had let that negative voice tell me too many things and it was taking over my mind a little bit. And my creativity wasn't flowing. So I started nurturing my creativity. I started writing like daily goals. I started journaling at least a couple of pages every morning to get that negative voice on paper so that I could have a good day.
Awesome. Look, I feel this goes perfectly into the next section I want to talk about, which is basically the effects of this pandemic is, having us all to reflect and to really, what it did is that, the pandemic, and it just shone a light on us and what needed to be worked on. And for you, about the importance of wellness and mental health. You've mentioned journaling, and what other routines did you start implementing, if any, during this time?
So I'm a person that like struggles with routine.
Okay. Yeah.
Like don't mention this to many people, but I have really bad anxiety and I have ADHD, so it's really a struggle. But honestly, I would find the morning journaling,
Yes.
trying to get those thoughts on the paper, but also not with the intention of writing goals and stuff. The journaling was to get that sense of voice in your head, to all the crap that's said to you that is probably not true, getting that out on paper. So that was one thing. But then also writing down my ideas, writing down my goals, whether the ideas were good or bad, writing them down. Other things was just like showing up every day, like coming and sitting in the studio.
Yeah.
And if, I had a good session, great. If I put a kick and a clap in the door and it didn't go anywhere, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling it today. And
and
just going off and going for a walk, or, doing something else that I enjoy. So in other aspects, I'm trying to nurture my creativity and not put pressure on myself. I can say that this is more of a development in the last few months, because I think I put way too much pressure and expectations on myself this year that I burnt out quite often.
Yeah.
So I had to like stand back and go, okay, well, why am I burning out? Like, okay, am I working too hard? And I was like, maybe on my own stuff a little bit. Can I step it back a bit? And I was like, yeah, why work on the thing that I love doing if I don't love doing it? So then, yes, there's the disciplinary of like coming in every day and showing up. But if I'm not feeling it, I'm not going to force it.
Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay. And it's the thing, it's moving forward despite that idea of fear that we talked about just now, that despite the voices in your head, which you said, you do some morning journaling every day, just to really get that out. And so, yes, for me, it's, I meditate twice a day now, and which has become a part of routine. And I've started this, early 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And yes, the morning meditation is so important, that it allows you to really see those thoughts, because you wake up, you're still in that state, you're still in the sort of sleep state, and you just kind of sit there and you go, okay, about 10 minutes, okay, this is what I'm saying to myself. Oh, that's pretty bad. Oh, damn. Okay. And then you can
really go, is that an emotion? Is that an actual to-do thought? Or is that just my sensitive brain telling me I'm a failure? Okay, well, that's just a waste. To be able to have that awareness and to be able to pinpoint them, that's living in the moment and putting those thoughts away.
Yes, exactly. And
in some sense, controlling them without controlling.
Yes.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, it's like you journaling and meditating, in my case, just allows you to just kind of let them go, right? It's kind of like, okay, it's there, it's not you anymore, because what you give attention to, energy will go to that, and then you're simply gonna be that thought for the rest of the day. But then actually being able to observe it and say, oh, okay, it's just a thought. It's not. It's like, if a bird flies by, you're not like, hey, bird.
Exactly.
yeah. So, yeah, the analogy I like to. Sorry.
Because you burn out. Like as soon as I start to filter it, like it's not filtering, as soon as I start to feed into it, my brain goes into overdrive.
Yes.
And then I'm not sure what my clear head wants or thinks actually. So then I find that if I'm constantly exhausted, it's probably just me listening to my head too much.
Is it a throbbing feeling? Kind of. It's like something that's kind of like this.
Yeah, it happens a lot before I go to sleep, and probably when I'm trying to be creative.
Yes.
Because the other aspects of this that I'll bring into it is that as an artist, you will have expectations, you will compare yourself to other people, and social media doesn't like help any of those factors. And so those things are making when I'm caught in that, I'm not always, but when I'm caught in that, I'm finding that my brain's like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not there? Why don't I do that? And then it's almost like if that keeps on ticking over and I let it, then I've just wasted a whole day like complaining to myself why I'm not like somebody else, and what a waste of energy and time. So now if I find that I'm doing it, I have meditated sometimes, or I
Yeah.
journal, whatever I'm
Yeah.
feeling like,
Yeah.
just to be like, nah. Or social media, I'm very much on like putting the new focus thing on your phone where you do not disturb basically.
Hmm.
So I'm, when I'm in my, if you can get up in the morning and journal, have your coffee or whatever, put your stuff on do not disturb, then go into the studio, you're probably going to be at a better head frame than if you're sitting there looking on social media and comparing yourself to everyone.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. Totally relatable. And what I want to touch on is that while we're still on this topic, is that whenever you find that you're having those thoughts, right? Do you find that it always comes in the form of a question?
Yes, sometimes
Yeah.
it's kind of, or it's a put down. It's
Yeah.
a,
Yeah. It was a
what are
state.
you
It's a
doing?
statement.
Oh, yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. What are you
What are you
doing?
doing
You're a
there? Yeah.
failure. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
it is a question.
This
Yeah.
question. Yeah. Why is like, why am I not there yet? Is this
Yeah.
right? What am I doing enough? Haven't I
Yeah.
tried enough? You know, am I
Another
in?
thing I could recommend is
Yeah.
writing down your values, your morals, and your ultimate goals, like why you did this in the first place. Like, why did you start doing music? Write
Oh
those
yeah.
things down. And then when you're in a mode, because sometimes you're in a really low mode and you've just let it take control, because you can't always be in control. So
Mm.
I revert back to those notes. I'm like, okay, I want to do this forever because I love it and I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. I want to influence people from all ages, but mostly younger girls, that they can go into any career that they want to, like whether it seems far-fetched or male dominant, like go into it. I want to make people dance on the dance floor. Like I want to
Yeah.
write music and have my own lifestyle, because that was something that I craved. Was I want to choose my hours. Like I want to work when I want to work and not work. And so like
Yeah.
I revert back to this, and then I get a sense of calmness, because I'm like, no, I'm in the
That's
right place. I'm
yeah.
doing the right thing.
Hmm. Because that's that's you at your core. That's a
Yeah.
why. That's your why you start out with. And interesting, you mentioned that, because right there, that is my daily journal. I put it.
Hi.
Yeah. So that's
Mine's
where
right here.
hell
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wrote my
Nice.
notes for today.
What's that?
I wrote some notes just for today in
Oh,
case
just
yeah, but I
yeah.
never look at them.
Can never look at it. It's do you
Now, because
sometimes
can't be scripted.
can't be what? Just missed out.
Can't be scripted. Like I don't want to script the
Oh no, no, yeah,
podcast.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not scripted. So I'm just gonna move on to lessons from the journey in music. So what's the biggest lesson so far, in the
Lessons.
lessons from the music industry, and insights
Um,
that you could share?
don't have expectations.
Good one.
Like
Good one. Yeah.
put
What's
out, do things for yourself,
Mhm.
and it'll, not everything's always gonna connect in the way you think. So if you don't have expectations, you can celebrate the wins that it does have instead of being upset about what it doesn't have,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
um
Yep.
Another thing, like try keep authentic, really. Like authenticity is, if you're not authentic to yourself, the industry sees right through that. And
Mhm.
there's also no longevity in doing something that isn't true to yourself.
Mhm.
So that's a huge one.
Yeah.
um
People see right through it as well, like your
yeah.
listeners or the viewers, or yeah, it's that's an identity thing, and then the identity that you choose to put forward, as
Yeah.
Tina says, to
Yeah.
to what, yeah, so
And Tina says it's pretty true to who I am, but like I do step into her when I'm on stage.
yeah.
She's the confident me, she's the
Yeah.
bubbly,
Yeah.
yeah, playing music me, but still she's me. Like, so it's easier
Yeah.
to keep that
Yeah.
long time
Hmm.
longevity was.
Good
Yeah.
stuff. And hey, I didn't get to cover this just now when we were talking about COVID. What were the wins you had during the
Wins.
pandemic? Yeah.
I think it was that I released Limbo when no one
Yep.
was really releasing music back
Yep.
in 2020 in June.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
got Triple J Unearthed Artist for the Week. So my song was played every day on Triple J,
Hmm.
and I got a lot of recognition from that. I got number
Yep.
one on Shazam, the Discovery
Nice.
Artist, which was I didn't really realize that was a good thing at the time until I looked it up, and I was like, oh wow, this is huge, number one. Like, that's really cool. I got some really good gigs through the second half of last year, because obviously WA opened up earlier because we were able to keep COVID out. So I
Yes.
got some really solid gigs from playing the WA Unlocked party at HBF Stadium with Shock
Yes.
One and Lumberjack.
I
And
remember seeing, yes, yes. I remember this
and
post about it.
then
Yeah.
I got to close down New Year's Day this year and play Castaway on a $9.5 million boat in December last year, which was amazing.
Nice.
It's like that's an experience I don't think I'm going to get often or again. So that
Right.
was really cool.
Cool.
I think from the wins aside from that was there were silver linings as well. So having the time to actually think about what my vision was and my brand and everything and really solidify it, and also having time to actually upskill my production, because I feel that where I was 2 years ago, I wasn't as prepared skillfully as I am now.
Yeah.
So I think if I got thrown a big bone in one aspect where things might blow up a little bit or anything,
Yeah.
I'm prepared for it. I also stopped getting nervous to jump on stage. Like I still have slight nerves, but they aren't crippling. I get more excited now, which was a super big transition from being so anxious I couldn't talk to someone for half an hour to now I'm fine in that aspect, and I jump on stage and I'm slightly nervous. You're always going to be slightly, but I'm way more confident. I feel like I caught my groove with dancing and I caught my confidence with it all, and it really reflects onto the people watching me.
Beautiful share. It's I get it. It's like the difference between there's a fine line between nerves and anticipation. Like it's like, yeah, I'm gonna play it, but there's that it's that buzz you're getting, like, yeah, it's like, yes, it's gonna be a good time, Good stuff. All right. Yeah. I think that what people will really get from this is the anything can happen. Anything can happen, the next second, for artists, and even during a pandemic. We've been fortunate, I'd say more fortunate than other areas, than the other states, that we've opened up earlier, and that you've been able to do these things. And just at the end of the day, anything can happen, the next second for musicians, for anyone. So keep at it, right?
Yeah.
Just keep at it.
Keep at it.
Yeah.
If you're in it for the right reasons, keep at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So as a result of your skill set, what avenues are now open to you in music?
Well, now through teaching at Lab Six, I'm starting to do a lot more co-production, like helping other people finish their stuff, or I've been writing for a girl a little bit. Mixing, I started offering mixing as a for my students, but I think there's a lot of avenues in music. Again, it just goes down to opportunity. I see jobs coming up all the time, and like Ableton ambassadors or representatives, and then if you think about the eastern states, you've got like Spotify and Triple J always have jobs coming up and stuff. So I think there is a lot. You got your booking agents and record labels and stuff like that. So there are avenues for artists to go into, especially if they realize that maybe being an artist themselves is maybe not where they want to go, because there's heaps of reasons why that people might start off because they love music, but go, I don't have the stomach for it, which is completely fair. But there are other ways that they can still be included, and there's some of the avenues. But I'd say, personally, the co-production stuff through Lab Six has been really challenging in a good way. Also, what I've learned is having someone know what they want with music and not listening to my sensor in my head means that I move forward on ideas faster, which has made me, I realized that sometimes it wasn't because if I couldn't finish my songs, that it had nothing to do with my skill set. It had more to do with the fact that I wasn't able to make my own decisions because I hadn't figured it out what I was doing with it yet. And that, my voice gets in my head, like I'm judging my idea too early on. Whereas when you work with someone else, they're just excited. And I can just go, do you like this? Yep, cool, move on. Do you like this? Cool, move on. And I find it really fun.
It's going back to that, it's definitely just all in the head. And you just kind of have to remind yourself that and just move forward despite that. Good stuff.
I know.
Yeah. That. So final question for you. What's next for 2022?
I was like 2022, give me 21, but no, it's 22 next
year.
Yeah,
it's 22 next year. Yeah. What a year.
That's only a month away.
It is.
So I've got Origin on New Year's Eve, and then the 7th of January I've got the next Body Control.
Yes.
And then I'm announcing a national tour a week or two after that. And then I've got a release coming out first week of Feb.
First week of
So
Feb.
this is the first anyone's hearing of that. So that's cool.
Would you like this to go? You good with this to be in
Yeah,
public?
I wouldn't have said it if not. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. All
telling
right.
people.
All
Yeah, I'll
right.
be touring all around Australia and ending with Fisher in April, May. So
April, May.
there's
All
a lot
right.
happening next year.
Very exciting times for you. Very exciting times.
Yes.
All
Let's hope
righty.
nothing gets in the way of it.
Yeah, yeah. And again, we just move forward despite any
Of
challenges
course.
thrown.
Adaptability, right?
Yeah. All righty. Well, thanks for your time, Tina. It's been a pleasure and always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll definitely catch up again sometime.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
All righty. No problem.